business is difficult. Like having your own business, doing your own thing, it has lots of challenges. Some of them you expect. Sometimes it throws you stuff that you don't expect. You are choosing to make everything in your business harder until you make your email list the hub of your business, the thing that you focus on nurturing, engaging, building, and working to be able to direct and have influence over. Everything is harder.
Hello, and welcome to the Art of Value Whispering podcast. I'm your host, Melitta Campbell, your value whisperer and business coach, and I'm excited that you're here because this show is all about how you can market your business and create a sales process that adds value every step of the way, that you can deliver with confidence, knowing that you are being your authentic self, that everything you're doing is aligned to your personality, the experience you want to create for your clients, and it feels right. It doesn't feel pushy, it doesn't feel salesy, or you don't feel you have to change who you are or spend a fortune on complicated, gimmicky tactics to grow your business and have a meaningful impact. Even if you're someone with a quieter personality or no background in marketing and business whatsoever. And last week on the show, I was talking about how you can market your business on a budget. And central to that idea was really knowing your audience, knowing the value that you can bring to them, and being consistent in your message, being consistent in the way that you add that value, bring people into your business, and invite people to take that step closer into your business. And one amazing way of doing that, which is extremely low cost, is email. And it's not a topic we've covered on the show for a little while, so I invited Kennedy from the Email Marketing Heroes podcast to come and share his insights on how to start an email list, how to get that right, how often should we be emailing. He's going to give you a complete masterclass on everything you need to know to get started confidently with creating an email list and adding value to that list to your audience every single day, so you can grow your business and feel good about the way that you're doing it. So I'm excited to bring him on. Before I do, I want to give you an invitation to join the online community where we discuss the themes from this show. We look deeper into different marketing tactics, sales advice, mindset, how you actually feel confident being more visible, getting in front of your audience, knowing what to say. We cover all of that in the Dream Clients Club. It's completely free to join. It's like one of those paid amazing marketing memberships, but without the paying bit. So do come and join us. You can do that via melittacampbell.com/club, and that will take you straight into the community, and you just click join and you'll be in and part of the group. So I look forward to welcoming you there. Meantime, here's Kennedy. So welcome, Kennedy. It's great to have you with us in the show today.
Hello, thank you for having me. It's lovely.
Yeah, and it's been a while since we've talked about email on the show, and it's such an interesting topic because there's so many questions around, do you do this? Do you do that? Is it good? Is it bad? But it's also something that's so essential for every business to have. So thank you for taking the time to speak to us today.
Yeah.
Before we dig into everything email, could you tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are today? Because you didn't start out in email marketing.
No, I didn't. I was one of those people who I had friends who always knew what they wanted to do from school. Like they were like, "Oh, I'm going to be one of these. I'm going to be one of that. I'm going to be a footballer. I'm going to go in the army. I'm going to do all these things." And I never knew. I was like, "Well, I don't really know." And I sort of ended up being a full-time entertainer, a full-time performer. So I ended up combining sort of logic and psychology and body language and understanding human beings with comedy, and doing this sort of weird combination of a comedic after dinner show for conferences and corporate events. So I ended up traveling around the world, speaking at events, doing this very sarcastic mind reading act for events for people like, I don't know, all the big companies you've heard of, right? And loads of companies I've never heard of either. So I ended up doing that for years and years and years. And I ended up being two things that you're not really supposed to be, apparently, which is expensive and busy. Usually, people who are expensive have got no work, and people who are cheap are really busy, but they're making no money. So, especially entertainers tend to generally undervalue themselves, like freelancers do, like service providers do. We tend to attach our value to our sort of self-worth, which is a strange thing to do, but we do it nonetheless. Um, so what happened was a bunch of entertainers, fellow entertainers who were like, I don't know, like magicians and comedians and jugglers and all this kind of stuff, would get in touch with me fairly regularly saying, "How are you so busy? Can you give me any tips? Because my calendar's really empty. What are you doing?" And I ended up creating my first online program where I was coaching and supporting, and I had a physical newsletter monthly subscription where we would physically send out a physical newsletter every single month for other entertainers, and that was really good. That built me a really nice income that I could sit on a train or a plane, type a newsletter on my way to another gig, and make an additional income from supporting other people and really helping fellow entertainers to charge what they're genuinely worth, because most people really don't value themselves highly enough. So that's how it all began, selling that program. And what I realized was back then there wasn't as much social media. There was a little bit of Facebook going on. Instagram didn't really exist. YouTube was sort of happening, kinda. It was very, very. I mean, this is about 20 years ago when I sort of started selling stuff on the internet. So yeah, that's how it began. And eventually, over time, people kept asking me, "Hey, you're a really good speaker," and I'm lucky that because being an entertainer, I spent a lot of time on stage. So, hey, will you go and put this presentation together, which is about this marketing stuff? And I started saying yes, and eventually narrowed that down to the thing I feel like is the most critical piece in that whole marketing strategy is email, and we'll probably get into why that I really believe that is. That's not me saying it just because I teach email marketing or I'm the email marketing nerdiest person you'll ever meet, but it's because of a bunch of discoveries I made over the years. So yeah, basically, entertainer started helping other entertainers, and then broadened that to other businesses, and that's led me to keynoting at all kinds of events all over the world. I've spoken at events in, I mean, flipping heck, people have for some reason decided to fly me to Las Vegas, which is great. I love Las Vegas. To Florida, to London, like to all over the world, really, to talk about this stuff. And then ended up starting a podcast, the Email Marketing Show, which I know you know and listen to. And yeah, so it's been it's been amazing, like being able to share this kind of unconventional approach that I've got to email marketing.
Yeah, a brilliant journey. And one thing that is a consistent theme on this show, particularly when we have guests, is that where you start is never where you end up. Because when you start and you start to see, oh, I can do a lot more than I thought I could, or I could use this experience this way to add value, and then people come and ask you for different things and you get curious. It's just so cool.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting that you say that email is the most critical piece of the marketing puzzle, because there are so many pieces of that puzzle. And this is
Mm.
something I've talked about recently on the show, because very often these days people think marketing, they think social media, but social
Right.
media is rented ground with a fickle landlord, and it's very, very slow. It's a real farming strategy. It's great to have, but it doesn't often give people the results that they're looking for. So I'm really curious. You said that you've discovered this over time as the most
Mm.
critical piece. I think it's wonderfully flexible and you can use it in so many interesting ways. But I'd love to hear your take on that, because like, oh, what did he discover?
What did he figure out? Yeah, see, here's the thing. Business is difficult. Like having your own business, doing your own thing, it has lots of challenges. Some of them you expect. Sometimes it throws you stuff that you don't expect. And the common thing is, as an entrepreneur, which unfortunately that's what you are as soon as you do this, whether you like the label or not, is all you do is solve problems and all you do is figure out challenges. And there are so but the good thing is you get to make a decision. And the decision you get to make is, do I want this to be uphill with a rock on my back? Or do I want this to be downhill where I'm just tapping the rock and it rolls down? So if you look at, I'm very good and very interested in looking at the patterns of behaviors of what successful people have done. And even though if I don't want to be as successful as them, or even if I don't want to have the type of life or the type of business or responsibilities that they've got, what have they all got in common? And so if we look at every successful person who we might respect, let's say just in the digital marketing space, whether it's my friend Natalie Ellis, who founded Boss Babe, or it's Russell Brunson or Ryan Dice from Digital Marketer, and any of these people who are extremely successful, whether you like what they sell or you don't, whatever, but just the black and white of it being successful, they all have a primary channel with which they grow their audience. And for some people, like Boss Babe, it's Instagram, and it's Instagram organic. For some people, it's paid media on Facebook. For others, like my friend Marley Jacks, she's huge on organic YouTube. Others, like my friend and coach John Penberthy, is big on paid YouTube. So all of these people are extremely successful, but their audience attraction method in each of those people's cases is different. And what they sell is also different. Okay. So one person might be selling how to grow a business as a parent. Another person might be selling how to run webinars. Another person selling how to write your own book. Like, it doesn't matter what they're selling. But the one thing that stays constant is they all do email marketing. They move their audience from the rented ground of a social platform, whether that's paid or organic, and they move them onto an email list. And they take that email list and they point those subscribers, those human beings that they were subscribed, toward the different offers they've got, whether they're using a webinar to do it, a sales video to do it, an application form, a sales call, it doesn't matter. They're moving people from the owned media, the owned ground of the email list. And this is a way I often talk about this when I'm giving talks is, look, if any one of your favorite gurus, one of your favorite thought leaders in your space wanted to research their audience to find out what the next product they should launch is, could they send a survey out and get a lot of responses and get some good insight? Yeah, they could. If they wanted to launch a new product next week, could they send an email out and do that and make a load of sales? Yeah, they could. If they want to launch a new podcast and jack it to the top of iTunes on day one, could they do that? Yes, they could. So whether it's researching your audience, sending people and getting lots of views or listens or downloads, or making sales, or having influence, maybe you're going to host an event or you're going to appear at an event, could you draw a crowd? Yes, you could. And the way that you do all of those things is by sending an email. If you want to launch a podcast, send an email, you immediately get downloads. If you want to get more views on that YouTube video, send an email. If you literally everything in your business is harder, you are choosing to make everything in your business harder until you make your email list the hub of your business, the thing that you focus on nurturing, engaging, building, and working to be able to direct and have influence over. Everything is harder.
Yeah, I agree. And as you pointed out, I was saying earlier that email's incredibly flexible, and you've illustrated that, just some of the things that email can do for you and your business and your audience as well. And we were talking just before we came on that one thing that I hear a lot from people, the resistance of using email, is they don't want to bother people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What would you say to them? Because I suspect you don't think it's bothering people at all.
But it can be, it can be bothering people, and it could also not be. But let's really look at the reality of how it feels. First of all, there are emails that you yourself I always like to think about how you yourself respond to things rather than the other people. Because when we think of people, it's very impersonal. Think about your own personal experience. There are some people you get emails from and they are annoying. But two things. One, you can choose to unsubscribe or you ignore them. So it doesn't matter. Nobody cares, right? There are some people's emails sometimes, right, where you love getting their emails. You love hearing what they have to say. You love hearing what their newest thing that they're going to be, how they can help you out with that new thing they're launching, a new program, because you have that problem or you like their story or you like them. The good news is When someone joins your email list, they are joining your email list. They are choosing. Like, if they don't like what's on TV, they will change the channel. You're not doing a takeover where you're like on those TV shows where you're broadcasting on every channel and they can't escape you, and suddenly you're appearing in the mirror and then you're on the door. And that's not happening. They can change channel. They cannot open the email. They could have not even subscribed to your channel. So they're choosing to get in. They're choosing to engage or not. They're choosing to stay or not because it's an unsubscribe link in the bottom of every single email. And it is your email list. A lot of people think of sending an email like as if they're going around to someone's house, knocking on the door and screaming in their face. Well, we're really not doing that at all. Of course, we're not doing that. What's actually happened is they, by subscribing to your email list, have come to your house. They're on your email list. So if they come down to your house, they sit on your sofa and they say, "I don't like that wallpaper and I don't like cats. Can you kick your cats out?" I'm going to be like, "No, get out of my house." Because it's my house. So, people talk about authenticity. I know that's a huge part of what we talk about on this show, and I think it's a hugely important thing. Authenticity is important, and it's really important, but also you have to remember it is fraught with the fact if you are genuinely authentic, you will know because you will get complaints. If you're not getting complaints, you are probably not being authentic enough. So, for example, I swear in my emails. I swear on my podcast. Why? Because actually, in real life, I swear a lot. I love a good swear, right? So for me to send emails that don't swear is me being inauthentic. Because if somebody gets my emails or hears my podcast and let's say I was like being inauthentic, right? So let's say I did a clean podcast and clean emails, which were like squeaky clean, not even a double entendre anywhere. So, first of all, would not sound like me at all, right? But then someone joins my program and I'm doing a coaching program and I get really excited and I drop a swear, they're going to be really upset because I've misrepresented what's going on. Whereas I know for a fact I can get on my coaching sessions and say whatever I want because people are already pre-framed to be genuinely attracted to the kind of way that I express myself. So again, I don't want to misrepresent and missell somebody before they get in the program. I want people to always know what the deliverables are, how they're delivered. How do you do that? By how you represent yourself. But here's the problem with that is a lot of people will say you really need to be authentic. And then a lot of the same people will complain when you are. Right? So I've had people who are like real advocates for being authentic. And those are the same people who've messaged me or emailed back or whatever saying, you shouldn't say that and you couldn't say that and you da 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 da. And I'm like, well, I can. It's my podcast. It's my emails. I can do what I want. I can say whatever I want. And you get to leave if you want. And I remember one time somebody saying, "Oh, I think, you're really putting people off and it's too much. Your podcast, the email marketing show is too much fun. I wish you could get into the content." And I said to them, I would rather not have a podcast than have a boring podcast. Because there's loads of boring podcasts. Go listen to one of them. So are you annoying people? You might be, but they chose to be in your world and they can choose to leave at any time. So the fact that you're not holding any of these people hostage and you didn't abduct them in the first place means we're not in a hostage situation. The person you've left, I call it leaving the door open. You leave a door open for people to get in your email list and they can wander through the open door, but you don't shut the door behind them. They get to leave at any time and you let them see where the door is. That means anybody who's in your email list, who's staying on your email list, who's continuing to open and look at your emails and engage with them, they want to be there. Everybody else, the door's there. That's cool.
Yeah, I love that point that people have chosen to be on your list, but they've chosen for a reason because you have said something or offered something that is solving a problem for them or helping something that they have an issue with. So you're almost being selfish if you stop there. If you don't bother them and don't continue to help them, then they're going to be disappointed if you don't send them more emails and help them further with that topic. But I really liked what you said there about being authentic and using that as a filter because, well, this is me. This is how I approach things. I'm the opposite. I do not swear, and I'm not a kick-ass coach. I'm more quiet and calm, and that's what my people like. But
Yeah,
if I was suddenly to be all Kennedy in my emails, they'd be like,
yeah, they would hate it.
what's happened to you? And they would
Yeah.
leave. So yeah, you want to stick to who you are, and you're going to always attract those right people and keep those right people. And people that
Mhm.
leave, they were never going to be part of your tribe and join your programs or whatever
Exactly.
anyway. So it's actually
Exactly.
good if they're leaving because you're being yourself.
It's like, let's imagine somebody's at this place where, we might say in some ways that maybe our two audiences might almost be like opposite people. I actually don't think that. I think that a lot of people will be attracted to both, and that's great. But let's imagine if it was just as black and white as quiet people versus, I'm quite noisy and aggressive in my attitude. I'm actually not an aggressive person. You might go, well, that's great if they find out about me first and they go, oh, that's a bit much, and then they get to come to you, then great. They're getting served, they're getting help. And similarly, somebody might come to you and go, "Oh, I want something a bit stronger. Oh, there's this Kennedy guy. He's noisy. I'll go there." The thing is, I actually am not a competitive person at all. I don't play any sports, really. No kidding. I'm not competitive. I think lots of people are on lots of people's email lists and they're getting value from everywhere, and that's what you remember. And it's a really good point you make. People are not on your email list because they want to get more emails because wow, they get points in their life or whatever from having more emails. Of course they don't. You know, they get your emails because they have a problem and they believe because of something they've seen from you that you might be the person who can solve it. Because remember, in marketing, all marketing, email, social, sales calls, everything, what we're actually all selling is hope. It's all we can be selling. The only thing we're selling is hope. Hope that it's this time. Hope that this is the solution. Hope that this is the one that jams for you. It's all we can be selling.
Yeah, exactly. So when people join your list, then we have another conundrum. So we're going to be authentic, we're going to be ourselves. We know they've come to our list for a reason and they've chosen us. We can go, yay. But then how do we find that balance? Do you have any magic formula between adding value and getting stuck in the sort of friend zone and
Mm.
actually driving people towards buying something from you? That's always the big fear. I don't want to be salesy, but at the same time, you don't want to just keep being nice and adding value and not taking them anywhere. That's not really going to be for the good of your business either. So where's the balance there?
And it's not good for them because let's remember what is the thing you can do that will give the biggest transformation for these people who have got a problem? Well, the answer is it's what's inside of your paid program. It's what's inside of the service or the program or the thing that you do is the best solution. So for us, if I didn't tell people about our email hero blueprint program, that would be crazy because I wholeheartedly believe it is the single most important thing that any business can have if they want to make more sales online. I don't say that as I'm not saying that that's not marketing, that's not sales, that is what I believe. Why do I believe that? For the same reason you should believe that your thing is the best thing ever because you built it. You wouldn't build the second best or the third best way of doing something. That would be crazy. You've built the single best way of doing it. So by not telling people about it, you are doing them a disservice. You are saying, I know you've got this problem. I know the secret, and I'm not telling you the answer. That's rude. That is not very nice. You are basically holding out on those people on the best possible solution that they can have. So, yeah, we do definitely want to balance the giving value with making offers. But I think we also have to remember that when someone first joins your email list, that is when you are going to have more of their attention than you will ever have at any point in the future. You have their attention because that's the point at which they've decided to join your email list. That's the point at which they've decided this pain, this difficulty, this challenge, this thing I want to achieve is so important to me right now. I'm going to go and seek out a solution and I'm going to register for that person's email list, for that freebie, for that lead magnet. They've decided that this is an important topic now. And so we have to use the fact we've got their attention for the first few days to the maximum advantage to help them as much as we can. A tale I often tell when I'm doing keynotes is imagine you've got a guy and he's got his leg hanging off by the knee, and there's blood squirting up everywhere. Gruesome image, right? And he hops into the emergency room, the A&E at the hospital. And there's blood going everywhere. And eventually the doctor comes over, sits down, and says, "Hi, I'm Dr. Kennedy, and let me spend 4, 5, or 6 weeks telling you why I got into medicine. You see, my parents were doctors, and and I grew up in Michigan, and you're like, whoa, 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 stop chatting. Don't onboard me. Don't welcome me. I'm going to bleed out on the floor. You do have some subscribers who are coming in every single day who are in the way that you solve things about to bleed out on the floor. They are in desperate, urgent need for your help. And so, what we have to do, even from the first email, we have to just drop a subtle hint, a link, just as one of your bullet points in that welcome email, that there is a way to get the best help possible now. And it's by clicking here and going and checking out my main offer, my main services, my application form. So that's why in the very first email of my welcome email, I have a bunch of links. One of them is like, hey, welcome to the Email Marketing Heroes. And here's the thing you're going to expect. Like, first thing is I'm going to email you every day with a tip to help you with your email marketing. That's cool because people join my email list to find out about email marketing. So why wouldn't they want that? Secondly, I've got a podcast called The Email Marketing Show. Here's a link to it. Oh, great. I can go and get that for free. Number 3, I've got a free community. You can come and join that. It's called the Email Marketing Show Community. Go to Facebook, search for the Email Marketing Show Community. Come and join us there. And number 4, if you want to go faster, we've got our Email Hero blueprint. Click here and go and check it out. So now what we're doing is we're actually allowing people to choose their own adventure. We're not throttling. We're not holding back on people. Instead, we're able to say, you can go and get free value from the podcast. You can go and get free value from the group. You can get free value from my emails. But also, if you really want to go fast because you've got an urgent need to solve this problem, then you can do that. We're not hiding that away from people.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that idea of a nice menu. And it's not just a menu of like this is what's on offer, but you're also setting the scene for what's to come. So I am going to email you every single day. You're going to love it. It's going to be valuable. It's a simple way of doing everything, setting the scene, setting your tone, and also saying, by the way, I've got this awesome offer that you can go and check
you
out
do it
straight
with
away.
personality, you know? You do it with personality. Like in the top of it, I have like a little gif of me waving and stuff. Like, so it's all really nice because you don't want to like, what you don't want to be is too much too soon, right? You don't want to be like on your list and like, hey, let's go, let's get some money out of you. Like that's a bit grim for me. I don't like that. You know, remember the last thing in that menu of options is the opportunity to invest with your reply. The rest of the stuff is increasing degrees of commitment from completely anonymous. You know, you're going to get these emails and what you've already signed up for all the way through to a group. And then, of course, signing up with a higher level of commitment.
Yeah, I love it. It's simple and yeah, does everything you need it to.
Yeah, exactly.
So you mentioned there you send them a tip every single day. Do you have any advice on frequency? Because I guess it's a case of balancing the time you do have available to do something consistently that you can like, stick to, but also, as you said, you've built that momentum, they've come on. You don't want to leave it too long. And then they're like, who's that Kennedy guy? I don't remember, unsubscribe. So is there any advice that you have on frequency?
And you're dead right. That's the number one reason you need to probably be a slightly more often emailer than you maybe have thought about, because you might used to have thought, oh, I'm bothering people. Hopefully, we've now given a bit of understanding about how that's not the case at all. The number one reason people say that they unsubscribe, when they click that button, unsubscribe, on the next page it says, what's your reason? And they say too many emails. What they really mean is too many irrelevant emails. And they also mean I've sort of forgotten who this person is. And that's what happens if you haven't emailed somebody for a while. They forget who you are. If you get an email from somebody, I'm like this. I got an email the other day from somebody that I didn't recognize the name. So immediately you go into that email in a really bad mood about how did this dirty, horrible person get me on their email list? They're scammy, horrible people. And that's your attitude when you get into the email. It's not a really good starting point for any relationship with anything that's interesting or going to move me towards an offer or a purchase. So making sure you are frequent. If you're emailing less than 3 times in a week, your chances of being forgotten are really, really high. Because think about all the other emails that everyone's getting. And think about then multiply that by the number of video content they're seeing across all the different platforms, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, and Reels and stuff like that. And then there's all the social media written posts. We really are being consumed by a lot more content. And while there's a bit of misinformation being spread, which is that we have shorter attention spans than ever. We actually don't have shorter attention spans. There is literally no data in all the tests that have been done that show we've got shorter attention spans. It's just that we have more options. So the things that actually keep our attention are of higher quality. Right. So I'm busy binge watching a new TV show on Sky at the moment, and I will watch episode back to back to back. Whereas, some TV shows just won't get me, or I won't watch that sales video because it's just not that good. So the bar of good content is slightly higher. But in terms of actual frequency, it's interesting. We just did an episode on the email marketing show about frequency. And my latest thinking on this has changed. I think we basically have two types of frequency. I think we've got maintenance mode frequency, which is just when there's not really a promotional event happening. I think there's that. And at the minimum, that needs to be 3 times a week. For me, I still do once a day, 7 days a week. And you just balance in that a good, I do lots of storytelling, which I know, you've talked about on the show before when Ian was on, and it's definitely worth going back and listening to that episode. But the thing to remember is that you're bringing people in, they're going to have some stories, they're going to get some value, they're going to get some lessons. So you've got that frequency of maintenance mode between promotions. But every quarter, I sit down with my calendar. I personally open up my Asana because I like the way it displays, but it could be on your Google Calendar. It could be a piece of paper. It could be. We used to do it as a wall chart when we used to have an office about 5 years ago. We had like one of those wall planners, and we used to plan out what the promotions are going to be for every week of that quarter. And some weeks there's nothing, and some weeks there is something. So let's say we're going to do a webinar. Let's just make an example. We're going to do a little web class. We're going to do an online master class. And it's going to be free. I'm going to teach some free stuff and then make an offer at the end. That's what we're going to do. So I know that, okay, my webinar is going to be on Thursday. I'm probably going to do a 3-day promotion for that. So I know I'm going to do Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, maybe do a teeing up, getting people to think about the topic that I'm going to be talking about on the Monday, just to get people thinking about it. So I know that during that period in my calendar, that's what I'm going to be doing. But before that, maybe there's nothing. So I'm going to just do one email a day, give some value, give some stuff, have a casual call to action to my always open program. So for me, it's the Blueprint program. But then when it comes to the Monday, I'm going to send an email which is really talking about the topic of my masterclass and my webinar. Then on Tuesday, on the first day of any promotion, I'm probably going to send 2 emails on that one day. I'm going to do one early, which is really brief. Hey, I put this new class together. Here's the registration page. Really short. Later on in the day, much later on in the day, I'm going to be like, hey, I'm really excited. This topic's really important. Here's 5 things I'm going to cover. Here's the link to it. Because on the first day, I want to get like a bit of an oomph of excitement and people registering. Then the next couple of days, I'm going to be a bit quiet. And then on the actual day of the event itself, I'm probably going to send 3 emails. And I realize people are like, whoa, 3 emails. But let's remember why. If you come at any activity from a place of service and genuinely caring, if the thing you've put together, in my case, this webinar, it will be something I know is genuinely transformative, genuinely going to help people a lot just by attending. I never do any webinar where it's all sales pitch. I always want to make sure people have a considerable level of value that they can go and implement, even if they don't buy anything from me. That's my rule. That's my ethics. That's the way I like to do things. And that's only personal to me. You might do it differently. No judgment. You do you. Be authentic, right? So I know that if I get people on that webinar, they're going to learn a lot. They're going to move their email marketing forward. They're going to learn some stuff that they're going to be able to go and implement. So on that final day, on the day of the webinar, let's say the webinar is going to be at 8 p.m. Well, I'm going to do an email that morning going, hey, the webinar's today. You haven't registered yet. Here's, it's happening today. You need to go register. It's 8 o'clock. See you later. I'm probably then going to do one later in the afternoon, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, saying, hey, today's the webinar, final chance kind of thing. And then I'm going to do one final email, like 30 minutes or even 15 minutes, or maybe exactly as the webinar is starting, saying, hey, I'm about to fire up the Zoom. Come and register now. Because I don't want people to be able to say, oh, I would have loved that, but I didn't. I just missed your emails. Because I was there delivering the content, and because of me not being willing to get out my own way and showing up and saying, hey, you need to be here, this person who could really have done with my help didn't know about it. That would suck. That would be awful.
Yeah, exactly. And, in copywriting, we had this saying that there's no such thing as too long, but too boring. And
Yeah.
there's people whose email list I've been on for more than a decade now, because every email pops in, I open it because it's got value in it. I know they're going to share something that's going to make me smile. It's going to give me a little tip or a reminder. It's great. The people that I unsubscribe from I don't remember who they were, and
Yeah.
they're just too long, and it's just not relevant. And you mentioned that getting people's attention is all about being relevant. So the more you know your ideal client, the more targeted way you get them into your list, the more you can be confident that even if you're mailing 3 times a day, that they're going to welcome that because it's in service for them. So, and I always tell my clients, never hit submit or send if you can't be confident that your client will say thank you. So
Mm.
if you've sent something from the heart, you know they're going to say thank you, then why not?
And one of the other things you can do with this, it's slightly more technical, but just in case anybody wants to go a bit more advanced with this, is often in the bottom of a promotion, we will give people the option to click a link, which is not to unsubscribe from our list, but like it says something like, not interested in hearing about this webinar. Click here and you'll hear from us once this promotion's over. So by giving people like a chance to sort of leave the room for a bit while we're talking about the thing and then go, right, we're done with that. You can come back in now. So we're giving people that choice as well.
Yeah, I love that because that's really treating your audience with respect. Yeah. So
Mm,
if people are emailing 3 times a week, as you recommend, how do they do that?
mm,
For
mm.
a lot of people, it's like, well, what do I say?
What do I
And
say? Yeah.
there was one tip that I got from your show, which I share a lot because it really stuck with me. And it's one you shared ages ago. You said, just share the least boring thing that happened yesterday. And I'm always like, oh, I don't know what to put. Oh, what was the least boring thing that happened yesterday? Is there a lesson in that I can share? And there always is. But
Mm.
is there anything else you would recommend?
I mean, that is the formula that I use. So my email I wrote today was about the fact that I made a pie yesterday, right? That's what it was about. And how did I come up with that email? Has it got anything to do with email marketing? No, but I'll make it. So and I asked the question, what's the least boring thing that happened yesterday? It's not what's the most interesting thing, because your brain will be a fool and go, nothing ever interesting ever happens to me, because sometimes your brain hates you. But you go, what was the least boring thing? Well, I made a pie, or I started a new TV show, or it's the fact that I walked to the shop and there was leaves on the floor because it's autumn, or it's what's the least boring thing. Your brain will attach that to something, and you're going to start writing the story of that thing in as few words as possible without even thinking about your product, right? And that's the first part of three that make up this kind of email, which is pretty much the email I use every single day. So I start off with that story. That's the S, story. The second part of the three parts is then the lesson. And that is, what's the moral of the story? What's the lesson that I can bring out of that? So, for example, let's use today's email again. So I talked about the fact that this is a pie I've been making for over 10 years, I think maybe 20 years, but I made it in a very different way this time. And I explained what I did differently, right? I'm not going to the detail of that because that's kind of not relevant, right? But I made it slightly differently. And then the lesson was, you can use the same ingredients in your email marketing, but if you haven't got the right strategy, the right method, if you don't use them in the right way, they're going to have different results. So the pie tasted better, even though I used exactly the same ingredients, But I did something different. I changed the order. I changed the way that I chopped certain things to go in it, and it really changed the flavor. And that's the same with email marketing. You can take templates and try and push them together, but they were never designed to go together in the first place. So, of course, they don't work into a singular strategy. Instead, What you need is a singular strategy which has templates that were designed to fit together. That's the lesson. Story lesson. And then the third element is offer. Now, in this case, it was a paid offer, which was we give you that inside of our Email Hero blueprint. Here's the link. Go check it out. But sometimes the offer is, and that's what I talked about today in today's episode of the Email Marketing Show podcast. Here's the link. Sometimes it's, oh, and I give you the 32 points to do this inside of this Google Doc. And I just link them to a Google Doc, but it's got some value in. Oh, I talked about it in this keynote I gave. Here is a little clip from it that I've put on my Vimeo. So it's story, lesson, offer, but the offer does not have to be a paid offer. Most of the time it's going to be, but some of the time it's not. Sometimes it's going to be, hey, the offer might be, so I'd love to find this out about you. I've put together a 3-question survey or quiz about this, whatever it's going to be. So it's story. That's one piece of value in the email because people get emotional value from it. People will read into it. They get to learn about you. They get to know, like, and trust you. You know, I'm forever talking about, I've got 2 Bengal cats. You know, one of the first things we talked about when you got on this call was, hey, my dog might bark and I might hear your cats. The only reason I've got cats is because I talk about them in my emails, talk about them in my podcast. So we're building up this level of trust, of authenticity by that story element. Huge amounts of value. People come to me at events when I'm speaking and say, oh, how are the cats? Or I can't believe you've never eaten an egg. Because that's one of the crazy facts about me is I've never eaten. I've had eggs in pies, and I know, right? So I don't even know what they taste like, and I have no idea. I've had them in like cakes and pies, but I've never eaten an egg, right? So people come to me and say, oh, and I always wear odd socks. I've worn mismatched socks since I was 13 years old, and one day about a month ago, I accidentally put matching socks on, and I was nearly in tears. I was like, get these on my feet, right? So, but there's all these things people come up to you and they learn about and they go, oh, this is what people bond over. I can't believe that. Oh, I do that too, or whatever. That's the story. So much value in the story piece. Lesson, that's when you're actually teaching them something. That's a second piece of value in that email. Oh, I hadn't thought of that before. I hadn't thought about that. I shouldn't just push different email campaigns together. No wonder they're not working that well. Second piece of value. And then the third thing you're doing is making an offer. And sometimes that offer is a free thing. Sometimes that offer is a paid thing. But even if it was a paid thing every single time, you've outweighed value to offer 2 to 1 in every single email. I think a lot of people struggle with what to put in their email because they don't have this trick for their story. But also, like, should I do an offer today? Have I built up enough value with people? You don't need to have that extra mental load. You don't need to burn those extra mental calories. Because I know if I just do story, lesson, offer every single day, I've automatically given them 2 pieces of value to 1 piece of ask, 1 piece of withdrawal from the bank account of goodwill in my list. So I don't even need to think about it anymore. So that's the way you come up with unlimited pieces of content. Because here's the tricky bit. If you only ever try and teach people stuff in your emails, well, it's a really bad thing to do, by the way. Teaching people and giving people actual, just like lists of tips, I'll do it, but I'll do it rarely. Very, very rarely. And the reason you don't want to do that is, one, nobody remembers a list of tips because they can't emote with it. But they do remember he's got 2 cats, he had a cold last week, he dislocated his knee, all these things about you. They remember these things. The other thing is, when you give people a list of tips, they can't buy anything, or they can't click the link, or they can't listen to that podcast episode until they feel like they've done something with those. You're basically giving them more questions. When people have got more questions, they can't take the next action. Whereas if you give them inspiration, you can.
I love that way of thinking about it. And if you give them too much advice in the email, if they don't do it straight away, then they'll start to feel guilty about that as well. And you're almost selling them short because, as you mentioned earlier, we've put together this program, which is the most incredible way of solving their problem. And if they do these little quick fixes, they're like, oh, I don't need that program because I've done this, I'm all good. And of course they're not. So it can be a disservice if you try and help them too much in the emails, but inspiring them and challenging them to think a little bit differently and see the real issues that they're facing and how to solve those in ways that are actually going to work. All of these things are great. And I'd imagine that once you start trying to write these stories on a regular basis, then it becomes easier over time and becomes a habit. And I think for all entrepreneurs these days in whatever field you're in, storytelling is such a powerful skill to have because we have to bring new people in. We have to connect with them quickly. We have to build that rapport. And storytelling is just such an amazing way of doing it, whether it's on social media, email, speaking on stages. We have to get good at doing these things. So email is a brilliant way to build that muscle, I guess.
It is, and it's also a really good way of exploring. Like, if you're at the phase of your business where you're very early and maybe you're an expert, you maybe you're a consultant, but you haven't really nailed what you're going to put out there to the marketplace in a sort of more scalable way, or in a sort of more packaged way. A great way of seeing what messages are landing is to start writing to your audience more often and seeing what is it that gets the most replies? What is it that gets the most clicks and the most opens? What are the topics that are being resonated with? And then when you see that, you're like, great, I've got this piece of the message. This slice of it is what people really care about. And I know which of my audience resonated with it. So when I do have a product, I can go to those people who did click, did reply, did open, and say, hey, I've got this offer. You said you're interested in that thing. I've made it for you. Do you want to have it? So not only do you have a bunch of people to test your messaging with, without the problem is, if you just test your messaging on social media, you are also victim to what the algorithm is doing today and which version of the algorithm is being served to you today. So it's never consistent. Whereas with email, it is consistent. Like, it's email, right? So you've got that consistency. You're able to test the messaging and dial in and figure out, and you get to get good at it. The great news is you get your first subscriber. Look, if you're learning the guitar, you don't want your first gig to be at Wembley Stadium. You want your first gig playing the guitar to be in the back room of a terrible little pub. And that's what's really nice. When you get your first subscriber, your email list is small. Well, good news is you are just learning to write emails. So you're embarrassing yourself or being bad or being not as good as you're going to be in front of less people. And over time, you're going to get better at that. And that audience will grow with you and actually grow close with you as they see you improve as well. Some
And
people love Taylor Swift. Like, they've watched her on YouTube for years, and now she's got this absolute cult following of Swifties because of people who, I remember her before she was the big Taylor Swift we all know now.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And I often tell people when they're like, oh, I've only got 50 people on my list. It's like, can you imagine having 50 people in a room and speaking to them? You'd be pretty intimidated. It's no small number. So any number is good. Um, we have covered so much, but I have one last question, which I know is a huge topic. So
Oh,
I'm just
good.
going to ask you for your favorite way to get people on your list in the first place. What's the way, if you could just do one thing to get people on your email list, this is what you would choose?
Yeah, it's a big topic, isn't it? It is a big topic. I think I think the best way, if I was starting over again, one of the things that's been extremely, extremely successful for me, and there is a caveat to this, is doing things like interviews on podcasts, is speaking and doing trainings inside of other people's communities, speaking at online events to their communities and their groups, and at in-person events for their groups in paid masterminds, paid coaching programs, and things like that. That's worked very well for me. But I think the reason it's worked very well for me is because I've got 2 decades of being a professional communicator, of being a person who's been on stage and is used to communicating and used to putting presentations together and hopefully being slightly interesting. So that's what's worked very well for me, especially in the beginning when I had no money, I had no budget, I had nothing to invest to build our email list. And so it's one of those things of, like, you've got money or time. They're the two currencies you've got. And I had time. I didn't have a great deal of money. But the real answer is, look at the thing you are already skilled at. What are you really good at? And how do you use that skill of yours to build your email list? So if you're really good at cold outreach and just making connections, do that. If you're really good at telling stories and being a communicator, do that. If you're more of a person who's good at like technical things, SEO might be the right thing for you. Or if you're really good at making video and doing viral videos and you quite fancy that, do that. I think a lot of us have invested a lot in our own personal development. The problem with the personal and self-development industry is it really shines a light on the things you're not very good at and says, ooh, what are you not very good at? And it tries to get you to, if you look at the peaks and the troughs of what you're good at and what you're not that good at, self-development and personal development industry really focus you on the troughs and ask you to try and pull up your troughs. In actual fact, I prefer to focus on pulling up your peaks. If you pull up your peaks and really ride the peaks of those waves and go, do you know what I'm really good at is this, then how do I build my audience with that skill? How do I convert my audience with that skill? How do I deliver programs with that skill? So because I like to speak, I speak to build my audience. To convert, I do webinars and things which involve me speaking. And to deliver, I deliver live classes. So I'm trying to use my natural skill or the skill that I've honed over 20 years, and I'm just reapplying that skill that I already have to each of the pieces of the business. And you should do the same. So if you're not a confident communicator yet, and you don't want to be right now, you want to leverage everything you're already good at, what are you good at? And really push that skill into the three areas: audience growth, audience conversion, audience delivery. They're the only three things we need to do in our business, by the way: grow an audience, convert the audience into buyers, and deliver our programs. The great thing about when you get your email marketing worked out and you automate your email marketing, mine is 90% automated, it means that piece of conversion, I take that off my plate completely. So I've taken 1/3 of the responsibilities of my business off my plate. I now only need to grow my audience. So when people listen to this podcast, some people might go, oh, I really want to learn more from that Kennedy guy. You'll join my email list. The conversion part, pretty much automated. So I don't need to do anything with that. I can spend more time building the audience by doing this kind of thing and more time serving my audience and delivering them to get the best results ever because I've taken 1/3 of things off my plate. That's why I said at the beginning, until you figured out your email marketing, got this stuff dialed in, you are making literally everything much harder.
Yeah. And thank you for really highlighting and giving everyone permission to work to their strengths, because that's something that I see people stressing over a lot. And I have calls with people like, yeah, but I'm never going to grow my business because I'm no good at whatever. And it's like, well, you don't have to be. What are you good at? Yeah, one person just loves doing videos but I hate writing. Well, if you love doing videos, that's like the holy grail,
Yeah.
go for it. And others the other way around. And so you don't have to be good at everything. Just really hone in on what you are naturally good at, and you're going to come across as more authentic as well. And you're going to have fun. Marketing really should be fun. And if it isn't, one, you won't do it, and two, it won't feel like fun for your audience and they'll all leave, so it's not going to serve you anyway. So yeah, thank you for saying that. Brilliant. Kennedy, you've shared so much value. It's been a complete masterclass. If people want to learn more, obviously you've got your podcast you were talking about, but you've also got a Facebook community where they can really, really hang out with you. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and where to find it?
Yeah, we have a free Facebook community called the Email Marketing Show Community. In there, that's where I'm hanging out all day, every day. Really, I should get some work done. But it's where people ask questions about email marketing. I post stuff in there. There's a whole bunch of valuable training to do with anything from, I put a training in there just the other day about my actual process that I use to send my daily email, so you can actually see how I do it, even including the technical things of what I actually do to make sure more people read my email. So there's lots of different training in there, which is completely free. If you go to Facebook, search for the Email Marketing Show Community, you'll find it, and I'd love to see you in there.
Yeah, brilliant. And when they join that, do they automatically get added to your list as well?
Not automatically, but you have the choice. So on the way in, it'll pop up with a question that says, hey, if you want to get my daily email tips, then you can put your email address in and you'll get those as well. But it is optional as ever.
Brilliant. Kennedy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So, like I promised, Kennedy delivered a complete masterclass in email marketing and how to get started, how to continue with that email list, how to continue building value, building your audience, and building your business. But I'd love to know, how do you feel now about your marketing? Has anything changed for you? What are you excited about doing? Or do you still have questions? Come and let us know in the Dream Clients Club. You'll find us at melittacampbell.com/club, along with a whole heap more training, resources, insights, and of course, an amazingly supportive community. So I look forward to welcoming you there. And if you have enjoyed this episode, then do subscribe so you don't miss your weekly dose of inspiration. And I would love it if you could leave a review on iTunes or Spotify for the show. It helps more people to find the show and benefit from the advice from myself and my guests like Kennedy. There are more tools, tips, and insights coming up for you in the next episode, so don't miss next week's show. Meantime, I'm Melitta Campbell, your business coach and value whisperer, and I wish you an amazing